What's up, Paradoxers? It's Jack again, and I am here for the Chapter 4 recap of your favorite manga, Time Paradox Ghostwriter. So, last week, we left off with Itsuki and Teppei having their little confrontation, which ended in Itsuki leaving White Knight in the hands of Teppei to take into a regular series at Shonen Jump, and everyone was okay with that because she realized that they shared the same ideals, that they both wanted to just bring manga to the world that people enjoyed. Um, so now we are pictured in the first page here with Teppei now in his new studio that his editor at Jump, I assume, helped him with. And he has come to the realization that he's responsible for the series and that he's going to carry it through. There are people out there who read his one shot, they think he did it, and whether he likes it or not, he's responsible. He's bringing it to them every week, and he took that responsibility. So moving forward the story, they take a little bit of time to explain the work that needs to make a weekly comic every month, and they show how assistants typically work. And from my understanding of reading manga and reading Bakuman, you have assistants, 4 to 5 typically, and they each have different skills and responsibilities and leadership within that studio. And Munioka today has the studio set up, and he also has a group of people to help him. So we get to meet some new characters, as I think. The first up is Genki Akaishi, who was an award runner-up just like Teppei was. He does not have a pro debut. He has a very interesting design. He looks like a shonen character himself, and he's, very out there, young, brash. He's got earrings, he's got bracelets, and then we have the contrast to him, Jiro Yamane, who is a career pro assistant. He's drawn very dad-like. He's wearing a striped polo. He's got a parted hair. He looks very chillaxed. And then we have Hajime Igarashi, who's 23 years old. He has had his one-shot debut already, and he has won some awards. He looks like a typical artist, like a modern-day artist. Long hair, glasses, more serious. It looks like he's ready to get his career started and has that burning fire inside him, even though he looks a little bit nerdy. Alright, so the shock here is that Itsukiano is also introduced as one of the characters who is going to be an assistant. Very shocking. Some people online predicted it. I did not actually. I wasn't sure where they're going to go with that. It looked like when she was walking away from the scene that she was gone for the time being. But now she is brought back in the next chapter as a assistant. Extremely interesting. We'll talk more about this later. So she's here. Teppei is shocked, and she immediately gets into a little bit of a tiff with all the other assistants because she, right off the bat, says, I had a very similar idea to White Knight, and even the same name, and everyone is kind of thinking that she's rude. But what I think they're trying to do here is set the table for the rest of the series. So these characters are going to be what's in the story for the time being. They're going to be a big part of it. So everyone needs to have that same understanding. She's doing the exposition, recapping a lot of the first 3 chapters, or at least the last chapter where they talked about their ideals and what they want to do and who White Knight was. So they're recapping it. So this is what the public knows of what White Knight is. So Munioka breaks up all the fighting, or I should say Jiro starts to break it up. They're actually using this space to show the personalities of the different assistants too, which is very clever. And Munioka breaks it all up when he says, look, take a look at her work, and then she immediately wins everyone over. Everyone. Jiro, Genki, Hajime, they're all like, wow, this person is really talented, and they instantly accept her, to everyone's surprise. Even though she's only 17 years old, which we found out in her bubble. And the shot of this scene ends with Itsuki asking to shake hands with Teppei, and it's a nice scene because she calls him sensei, and that concludes this part of the table setting for the future. So we move on, and we are starting to get back into like what the mental parts that Teppei is going through. They're showing him in his new studio working on his 54-page debut of the series, I suppose. To use an example, I think in One Piece there is Romance Dawn, which is like the one shot of pre-One Piece, but then he cleaned everything up to make it a full series, and that of course is One Piece Chapter 1. So I think he's doing something similar here. So he's in a studio working on it. Very interesting, I want to note here, it looks like his copy of the jump that he got in his microwave is the same issue that he got in Chapter 1. But if you look back in Chapter 1, they use a panel or two to show that it was missing. So I'm not exactly sure what's going on there. We'll talk more about that later. But anyway, you can see that he's looking through it, and he has like all these like stickies on it, and he's working through it, and he's really upset with himself. He's going through a little bit. I mean, you would think like, oh yeah, I got this manga showing up on my doorstep every month and every week, and I just need to copy it. But this is a lot more difficult than that when you're a creative. You know, you want to make sure that it's good. You are recreating it and trying to bring forth things that you like, and he's just dealing with like all these mental things, the guilt, the morality, imposter syndrome, self-doubt, all that stuff. So they're trying to show that he's going through something, even though he has like this handed to him in the microwave every week. And eventually, you know, he's working on it. To fast forward 3 weeks later, 19 days until the first chapter deadline, and the assistants come to get a status update. They want to know how far he's got. And so they find him in the studio, and it's sweltering, and he's completely shocked that they're there. He's like, oh, what are you guys doing here? And he eventually reveals to them that he does not have a single page done yet. And a few panels later, he says he did draw 54 pages already, but he doesn't think they're good enough. The assistants see the pages on the floor, and they're looking through it, and they're like, hey, what are you talking about? It's really good. But Teppei insists that he really wants to redo it. It's not good enough. The assistants are somewhat impressed just because of his attention to detail of putting out quality. This is actually something that is making them really want to work for him, I suppose. So Jiro proposes that they use the first draft to do the background work and to get started on their part, while he does the finished second round of redrawing of the series. And Teppei goes with it, and everyone seems to be happy. So they work on it. 10 days later, they're shown sparkling with the final manuscript. Everyone is happy with what they're done. They have the sweat marks and dirt on their faces, indicating that, you know, they worked really hard on it. Teppei asks Itsuki if she likes it, or he asks, what do you think? And she goes, it's great, it's perfect. Itsuki is shown in this panel where she's just glistening, funny enough, microwave in background. And Teppei looks at her, she hands it to him, and he immediately rips the manuscript in half. To everyone's surprise, there's a spirit coming out of Hajime over there. Everyone is shocked, and he says, it's not enough, it's not enough. And then, cut. 9 days to the deadline. Finished pages, 0. Alright, so what a fascinating ending of where they decided to go. All is not happy in the land of White Knight. Here are my 3 thoughts on what has happened in this chapter. So, the author is showing that Teppei is not having a good time doing this. He may have stumbled onto it, but now that he's quote-unquote received this good fortune, receiving the Shonen Jump every week from the future, it's not as simple as you think. They're not making it easy for him. He is wrapped up in self-doubt and all that stuff, and guilt, and also his own creative instincts are blunted by the fact that he has to copy, or is he copying? I think what they're building up is that, is he going to go in a different direction than where the future White Knight goes, and what will be the result of that? Will people like it, or will they won't? Okay, I don't know. That's my prediction. So let's see if he brings forth his own originality in it, which we know is his downfall in the past. Another thing is, Itsuki was brought in as an assistant. I mean, wow. I did not think of it, but other people did, and I think it's great in that she's on hand. She is, in my last podcast, I said that she is definitely a major part of this. She's the one who wrote White Knight originally. If she's away from the story, I don't think it's as good. She needs to be in it. So she is in it, and she's a great character. I really like her. I really like her design. And together with Teppei, I think they make a dynamic duo. They're really electric when I read it, and they're interacting. I think this is a really good and interesting and unique dynamic they have going on. So I'm really happy they brought Itsuki as a main character and being an assistant. Okay, and so the last thing I want to talk about is, did the manga disappear in chapter 1 or not? Because they show in 2 panels that he comes back into his kitchen after going out in the storm and proclaiming how awesome it is. He goes back in and he's like, where is it? And I think he says something like, I can't find it anymore. And that's why he thinks it was a hallucination. And he used his hallucination, like his memories of the quote-unquote hallucination, to write that manuscript for the editor that he brought in forcefully the next day. So, is it there or is it not there? That is the question that they will have to answer eventually. I think they're going to put the time travel stuff on hold for the time being. Another question that it will bring forth is, now that they showed him using the issue of Shonen Jump in studio, is Itsuki going to catch him with it? Or is anyone going to catch him with it? Are they going to wonder what like where this is from? Or of course they're going to look at if One Piece ended or not, which everyone is wondering, to be quite frank. But yeah, a lot of questions. I think the new direction for the series is the day-to-day, the immediate plot is how they're going to get this manga out in time in only 9 days, 54 pages, and moving forward, what this environment of Teppei doing the series, Itsuki is in the studio every day, and these 3 kind of awesome new assistant characters that they're introducing is going to be like. So that's it for this week. If you guys liked it, please subscribe and show your support by hitting the like button. And if you're on Twitter, follow Paradox Tweeter